end for some questions. Thank you, Lindsay. Also, please drop your questions in the chat throughout the conversation, and then we'll address them at the end. And in the interest of time, I'll keep the speaker introductions very brief, but their full bios will be posted to the chat. So, why are we here? We are at an inflection point. Key elements of a financial architecture for high quality blue carbon are coming together. And many of you in the audience are originators of several pieces of that puzzle. So, first, I want to thank you for your leadership on all of this incredible work around the globe. Today is about turning ambition into action through deeper cooperation. And what I'd like you to think about as you listen, I'd love for you to think about the themes of interoperability and coherence. How are the pieces coalescing at this time in order to drive impact at scale? And then where can you jump in and who can you partner with? Each speaker is going to share a concrete opportunity for investors and buyers to take action this year and highlight how we are working together to drive toward efficiencies and scale. Together, these pieces are more powerful than any one of them alone. So let's dive in. To set the foundation, I want to welcome Ariana Steinsmeyer, Global Outreach and Engagement Director at ORRAA and co-host for this webinar. Ariana will remind us of a few key assets that ORRAA has helped develop to support quality, integrity, and scale in the space. Over to you, Ariana.
Thank you, Whitney, and hello, everyone. It's a real pleasure for ORRAA to co-host this webinar with so many close partners and members of ours, and welcome everyone. As Whitney has mentioned, this is a turning point where we really need to come together. And as ORRAA, we as a multi-sector alliance are bringing sort of the finance, insurance, government, multilateral civil society and local partners together to drive investment into coastal and ocean resilience through nature-based solutions. So high quality blue carbon is obviously high up on our agenda. And that's why we're so excited to have so many members and partners of ours participating today. So the core really of ORRAA is to bring you all together to discuss practical and collaborative solutions and also acknowledge what are those challenges, but how can we share knowledge to overcome these and identify concrete opportunities and actions moving forward. So before we begin, I need to also note ORRAA's antitrust compliance statement. So ORRAA is committed to ensuring that the active industry participation needed to achieve our goals does not expose participants to undue competition law risk. So all participants in this convened meeting are expected to comply to these relevant competition laws and ORRAA antitrust compliance guidelines. You can see more on the screen on this as well. So while we acknowledge that each of you as a participant is responsible for your own compliance, we ask everyone to remain mindful of these obligations in today's discussions. And if you have any questions on this, please do reach out. As I mentioned before, so high quality blue carbon was very early on high on our agenda, and we were very fortunate enough to have so many partners and members of ours to identify that as a core of their work as well. So you will see here that several years ago, we together with CI, Salesforce, the WEF, TNC, and others have developed the high quality blue carbon principles and guidelines. And these were really at the forefront from our mind when we've felt that this is a market which needs really high integrity across the space and high quality to start with. And so while we put these together and launched them at the Climate COP before, we also then started collaboratively to host webinars, workshops, and had direct engagements with some of the practitioners, as well as also buyers in the room, to understand how can you uptake these high quality principles and guidelines. What are the risks currently you're facing? What are the solutions? And so we're really glad to see that many of you have actually uptaken these principles and guidelines, including also the mangrove breakthrough, which we hear a little bit more later today. But because of these webinars and these conversations, we felt what really is needed is a practitioner's guide, which we launched in 2024, where I want to highlight specifically the progress wheel, which is a tool you can really use. And that's one of the call to action where you can dive in to see like, where are you on this journey to meet the high quality principles and guidelines for blue carbon, and help to identify what are some of the collaboration you need, some of the learning you need. And please do reach out. There are many of us here now in the call who can help you with that journey and make sure that we can find solutions together. And CI was particularly a strong partner of ours, and I see sort of the colleagues on the call there as well. So again, that's something for you to keep in mind, that you can actually, it's a tool you can help you to be on that journey. Furthermore, we as ORRAA, together with some of our partners, are also developing what we called an octopus platform, which is intended to better connect projects, investors, but also share knowledge to identify these opportunities, assess needs, and support a stronger investable pipeline in this space as well. And we were very fortunate to partner with Salesforce early on to explore also how AI could support the matchmaking and sharing knowledge in that space. So if you're interested to learn more about the Octopus platform and to engage early in some of the testing, please also reach out. And we're really eager to engage further with you on that as well. Yeah, so with that, I'm really pleased to see both sort of project side and buyer side leaders with us today. And the aim is really to help to connect together and continue to build a high quality market for blue carbon. So thank you again, Whitney, for emceeing us and for all the partners contributing to this great dialogue.
Well, thank you, Ariana, and for your stewardship of the principles and guidance and the follow-on work as well, and for the work on the Octopus platform. I think so many of us can empathize with the challenges that come with matching investors with projects and moving those matches through to fruition. So excited to see how the Octopus platform will develop. So with that, I want to thank you, Ariana, and I'd love to move to the World Economic Forum. Another co-host for this session, Emily Kelly, leads the Mangrove Working Group and the Blue Carbon Action Partnership at WEF. Salesforce is a member of the Mangrove Working Group, and from my experience, the assets this team has delivered, both through a corporate playbook for investing in mangroves and through local policy engagement, are essential prerequisites for scaling finance for blue carbon. So excited to hear from you, Emily, and thank you for co-hosting.
Thanks so much, Whitney, and really excited for today's conversation. So happy to see all of you here. As Whitney noted, my name is Emily Kelly, and I lead the Blue Carbon Action Partnership at the World Economic Forum. And through BCAP, as we call it, my colleagues and I work across countries and the private sector to increase investment into coastal ecosystems and the communities who depend on them. We work with governments, communities, experts, the private sector, et cetera, and our goal here is really to develop two different pieces. One is the national blue carbon roadmaps with our in-country partners who are leading this work and identifying their priorities internally. And this helps to reduce risks for investors while ensuring that corporate capital can complement those priorities. And then the second piece is connecting across global partners and those who are thinking about that investment. And that's one of the reasons that we're so excited about this conversation today. Also wanted to talk about our Forest Future Alliance at the forum, previously 1T.org, which is also bringing companies together to accelerate high integrity investment into forests and nature while strengthening accountability and collaboration. So together, these groups convene the Mangroves Working Group, and it's so nice to see so many Mangroves Working Group members on the discussion today. The group brings together private sector and expert members with a shared goal of raising ambition for corporate engagement in mangrove conservation and restoration. And to support this, there are many ways that companies can engage. And I'm sure that the stories that we would have amongst those on the call right now would further enrich our ideas of these abilities. Last April, we launched the corporate playbook for investing in mangroves, which outlines avenues for participation, including sustainability credit buying, supply chain, off-taking, project development, and other ancillary engagement. And I'll post that in the chat in a moment for your reference. This framework recognizes that companies bring different strengths and are at different stages of readiness. So that's why today is just a really exciting conversation and really looking forward to delving into some of those avenues in today's conversation. When companies come together, they can explore practical opportunities to move capital, structure collaboration, and accelerate action. Coordination strengthens confidence in the market and helps unlock larger, more predictable investments into coastal ecosystems. So, with that in mind, I'm really looking forward to Julia's presentation from Symbiosis Coalition and thinking about aggregating corporate demand. And in doing so, Symbiosis is sending a strong and predictable signal to project developers, improving price stability and supporting projects from early stage development through to maturity. And ensuring that investment flows into high quality projects is so important. And I know many of us have been thinking about that. So I'm excited to also hear later from Deanna on the Blue Carbon Catalyst Fund and Fair Carbon's work to strengthen the supply side of blue carbon. High integrity projects require strong governance, robust monitoring and verification, and meaningful community participation, as all of on the call, I'm sure, are well aware. And Fair Carbon plays such an important role in fostering high quality blue carbon projects that meet rigorous standards. And of course, all of us and all the actions that everyone is taking are in this room are contributing to advancing the global goals of the mangrove breakthrough. So I know Ignace will bring us home on this at the end of the call to pull the discussion together. So with that, just echoing Whitney and Ariana in my enthusiasm for the call today, and really grateful to have you all here as we're contributing to the global movement to invest in mangroves and coastal ecosystems. Back to you, Whitney.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Emily. And I think I'm glad you're going to post the playbook in there because I cannot speak highly enough of how like such incredible information and data that is in this document that can help you build a business case for investing in mangroves. So I highly recommend everyone checking this out. So from there, I want to transition to our guest. Julia Strong is founder and executive director of Symbiosis Coalition, of which Salesforce is a member. And having seen this coalition in action firsthand, I cannot speak highly enough of how surgically strategic and effective this approach is to scaling high quality nature based solutions. I want you to hear about it directly from Julia. What is the Symbiosis Coalition, the progress to date, what is coming up next, and then how you can engage. So, Julia, the floor is yours.
Thanks so much, Whitney. And it's a thrill to be here among so many active problem solvers pulling towards scaling nature-based solutions and mangroves together. So as Whitney said, my name is Julia Strong. I'm the founder and executive director of Symbiosis Coalition. Next slide. We're a coalition of buyers dedicated to growing the supply of high integrity nature-based carbon removal projects. We send a strong demand signal through an advanced market commitment to purchase over 20 million tons of high integrity nature-based carbon removal projects under contract by 2030, and then translating that demand signal into long-term signed offtake agreements to give developers and investors the confidence that they need to invest in these projects and develop them at the scale that we need to solve the climate challenge. Next slide. When we launched Symbiosis, we saw four key barriers to scaling nature-based carbon removal projects that companies need to meet their climate goals and that the world collectively needs to advance our climate ambitions. One, there's no universally accepted quality framework. There have been a lot of progress to date on improving standards, on setting guidelines and principles, but there's still a need for clarity on what do buyers actually want, what should developers be building, and what does science say is the best and latest standards for which to guide project development. Second, buyers are limited in terms of the amount of bandwidth that they have to diligence and really understand which projects represent these best-in-class standards. It's not realistic that every buyer, nor possible for every buyer, to have multiple PhDs on staff to understand all the nuances of every single project, from community engagement to carbon accounting to the ecological integrity of a given project. Third, without certainty of demand and certainty that there will be buyers to pay for these projects in the future, investors aren't able to invest in these projects, and developers don't have the certainty to develop and invest resources in creating these projects. And finally, for restoration projects and removals projects require upfront capital to get these projects off the ground and to scale. And without that certainty of demand, we can't unlock the lower cost capital that's needed to implement these projects at scale. Next slide. So through offtake agreements facilitated by Symbiosis Coalition, we're aiming to do for nature what power purchase agreements did for the renewable energy sector. I know there are a number of corporates on the call who may recall how transformational power purchase agreements were for giving the certainty of demand and revenue that's needed to unlock the billions of dollars in investment is needed for scale. And so while carbon and nature are not the same as electrons, there's a lot to learn from how the renewable energy sector scaled, and offtake agreements are one key piece of the overall puzzle, as we'll hear from others today. Next slide. So we have four components to address these key barriers to scale and to facilitate these offtake agreements and get to that billions of dollars of capital mobilized for nature. One is an offtake-oriented offtake commitment. Members commit to purchase or contract for high-integrity nature-based carbon removal projects by 2030. Second is a unified quality criteria that adopts and builds on the latest standards and science to clarify for developers what do buyers actually want to buy and give confidence to buyers in the quality of those projects. Third is a joint RFP with the aim to simplify the procurement process, enable developers to engage with multiple buyers at once in a streamlined way, and to translate that commitment into actual signed offtake agreements. And fourth is market development, so education, creating replicable frameworks, templates, lessons learned that can help more buyers, more investors, and more developers act. Next slide. So in 2025, next slide, we launched our first RFP focused on reforestation and agroforestry projects and grew that pipeline. We'll be announcing more projects this year. We grew our project pipeline has the potential to reforest an area the size of Costa Rica, reviewing 185 projects across 39 different countries and advancing 52 of those projects through intermediate diligence. And we're hoping to build a robust and meaningful pipeline for mangroves as well. Next slide. We announced our first Symbiosis project. Members signed offtakes for 215,000 tons of carbon removal from a reforestation project in the Brazilian Amazon, representing what high integrity looks like in a conservation-oriented context with native species, long-term durability, minimizing leakage, and engaging the local community. Next slide. We formed our technical advisory board of leading experts, ranging from experts across academia, NGOs, and industry, to make sure that we're guided by the latest science and principles. Next slide. And we welcomed new members. So we're continuing to grow the membership and with the aim to diversify the demand signal, because the more demand that there is, translating these offtake agreements, the more we can actually catalyze the billions of dollars of investment needed for scale. Next slide. So for mangroves, next slide, is our next area of focus. We're aiming to launch this in early Q2 2026, so stay tuned. It's coming up. We're excited about mangroves as it'll help us to broaden our impact as Symbiosis Coalition, addressing a really critical pathway. I'll talk a little bit more about why mangroves next. These projects not only enable high climate impact, but also enhancing coastal climate resilience and adaptation, as you all know well on the call. We anticipate the first projects will be ready for contracting by the end of the year. Next slide. So why mangroves? I won't belabor this point. I know that everyone here are mangrove fans, the superheroes of climate in many ways. They have large scale potential climate impact, 10 times more carbon per unit area than terrestrial forests, 2 to 5 times faster carbon sequestration per hectare. They provide all these significant other benefits that matter for our planet, for people, for companies, climate resilience, food security, contribute to other livelihood benefits. It's a maturing rapidly sector, given all the amazing work of the folks on this call and elsewhere who have really been laying in place the enabling conditions for this solution to scale. But it's still nascent. It still needs that spark to really get it to a scale where we can actually mobilize the billions of dollars. And we as Symbiosis, with a demand signal, see ourselves as being able to play a catalytic role in helping to demonstrate that there are buyers who are willing to purchase from these projects that represent the next generation of mangrove projects, sending a demand signal and following that with the offtake agreements to de-risk these projects for investors. Next slide. So we launched as a first step, our quality criteria for mangroves just last month, about like 2 weeks ago. Some of the highlights are that it builds on existing standards. We want to make sure that we're adopting what's out there, building on what's out there, and all the great work that's been done. So we explicitly point to the high quality blue carbon principles and guidance that Ariana mentioned, and the practitioner's guide. We look for things like a natural and assisted regeneration before direct planting, measuring. We share ways that we're looking for developers to measure biomass, soil organic carbon. We require dynamic baselining, conservative leakage approaches, explicit inclusion of sea level rise risk for durability, and requirements around financial transparency to understand where are the benefits actually going, are they actually reaching the communities on the ground, and ensuring that there are best-in-class social and environmental safeguards in place. So really ensuring that our quality pillars of conservative carbon accounting, durability, ecological integrity, social community benefits, and transparency are represented by these projects. And this was informed by our technical advisory board, but also by a number of experts in the market, including some on the call today. So thank you if you're on the call today and you contributed. Thank you so much for helping guide this work. Next slide. So what to expect? We're going to be open to offtake-ready projects around the world with a minimum 100,000 ton size of offered offtakes. They'll go through a multi-stage diligence process, from screening to intermediate diligence to full diligence with a geospatial analysis and site visit that's included for every project that goes through. We will evaluate projects as a coalition and then facilitate 10-year offtake agreements with the potential for pre-purchase opportunities as well, to help catalyze this sector. And then we'll be publishing guidance and adding to our library of early stage project resources, and our investor database. Really excited to hear from Deanna, who's doing critical work and helping the projects to get through that early stage of development that's so critical to then be able to bridge to offtake agreement from Symbiosis or from buyers elsewhere. Next slide. So how to engage? Next slide. If you are a buyer in the audience, as I mentioned, we are open to new members. So looking for buyers who are actively want to get in the game on purchasing mangroves and would like to do so among peers, to learn from peers, to have access to a robust pipeline, and to help to streamline this process, both for buyers, make it easier for buyers, but also for developers. On the screen here, you can see some of the criteria we have actually for members as well. That we want to have members who are focused on reduction internally, but see removals as also critical to helping to achieve climate goals, in addition to being willing to share best practices with the ecosystem as well and sign those long-term offtake agreements. Next slide. If you are, so for buyers, join as a member. For developers on the call, or those of you who know developers, we'll be publishing guidance on our website in the coming months. So make sure to review that guidance to understand whether or not it's ready, you're ready to apply. We want to make sure it's a lot of work to apply for these RFPs, that we help developers prepare as much as possible. Of course, if you do meet the eligibility criteria and are ready, we encourage you to apply the RFP. And investors in the audience, if you're not already on our database of investors, Let us know if you're actively deploying capital. We'll make sure to add you to our website so developers understand who's out there ready to finance these projects. And please encourage promising projects to apply for the RFP, and let us know if you know of promising projects as well. Together, it's going to take a village. It's going to take multiple pieces of the puzzle being put into place. But I'm thrilled to be part of this ecosystem. Symbiosis is thrilled to be part of this ecosystem, putting in place those pieces of the puzzle to really scale in this critical decade. So thanks so much, Whitney, ORRAA, and WEF for having me on the webinar.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for all of this incredible work and for really translating an advanced market commitment into transactions. I think that is just part of what makes it, I think, so exciting. And I love that slide at the end that really helps people. I think you said like jump in the game. And really points to the spirit of cooperation and coordination. So yeah, excited about the next RFP. Thank you, Julia. And now let's hear from Diana from about the Blue Carbon Catalyst Fund, which is one solution expressly designed to build a pipeline of projects that meet the demand of buyers, investors, and coalitions like Symbiosis. Diana Denke is co-founder and CEO of Fair Carbon, and she will walk us through the Blue Carbon Catalyst Fund and the structure, the pipeline, and how you can invest. So Diana, over to you.
Thank you so much, Whitney, and welcome everyone on the call. So hugely exciting times, and thanks, Julia, for sharing the news of a very interesting, offtake commitment and RFP coming on mangroves. So my name is Diana Denke, and I'm here to introduce you to the Blue Catalyst Fund. It is a program designed to de-risk, scale high-integrity blue carbon projects for coastal resilience. And over the next 10 minutes, I'll walk you through why this matters, what we built, and how you can get involved with it. Next slide, please. I mean, all of you know by now why coastal ecosystems are very important. They store up to 10 times more carbon per hectare. 80% of the world's fishing catch begins life in mangroves, and still half of them are already gone. So despite this extraordinary value that they bring for climate, nature, and the resilience of coastlines, blue carbon represents only 0.2% of the voluntary carbon market issuances. And what we believe at Fair Carbon is that this isn't a niche problem, it's a market failure, and it is something we need to fix. Next slide, please. So why hasn't the market fixed itself is because the barriers are real and they are structural. On the supply side, what we see is many projects fail for lack of scientific knowledge. The development tends to be slow and expensive, and early stage funding is very hard to come by. On the demand side, investors face high due diligence cost. Every country operates under different regulatory rules, and so real and perceived investment risks also keep capital on the sideline. The result is that there is a persistent gap. There is both a lack of investable pipeline on one end and the low capital committed on the other. But these two are actually related, and closing that gap needs more than money committed. It actually requires building the underlying infrastructure. Next slide, please. So the Blue Catalyst Fund was built to try and respond to some of these barriers. And it was really built from the ground up, from listening to the projects, from listening to what was needed in the market. In 2024, we launched the Blue Carbon Academy, which is an open access educational platform on knowledge on how you can design a high integrity blue carbon project. We have 700 signups since its launch. But what we learned is that access to knowledge alone wasn't enough. The project still needed specialized expertise, still needed hands-on guidance from those blue carbon experts that are actually quite hard to find and are a scarce resource in themselves. But most of all, what we also found is that the developers, even the best-in-class developers, often were still struggling to reach investment readiness. And therefore, also that kind of hands-on transaction advisory support was needed, because very few developers were speaking the language of investors. So there was a mutual frustration on both the supply and the demand ends. And this is why we partnered with Finance Earth, a UK-based investment advisory firm, and designed the Blue Catalyst Fund, bringing together vetted blue carbon expertise, early stage funding, and specialist transaction support in one program. The next slide, please. So our team brings together practitioners from the field, scientists, financiers, and it's really purpose-built to address some of these blue carbon challenges. So what we learned with our own experience is the predecessor of the Blue Catalyst Fund, an accelerator program that we run, prove that it is successful to have that hands-on capacity building for projects, because 60% of our pilot program within the duration of the program, which was a year, actually managed to advance to the next developmental stage. So if they were pre-feasibility, they became post-feasibility. And Finance Earth, our partner, brings over £1 billion worth of impact investment advisory experience with them. And our scientific partners, Silvestrum, Terra Carbon, and Nika, bring that rigor, that scientific rigor that high integrity projects demand. And we believe that you need this kind of multidisciplinary team put together under one program to really turn the tide on blue carbon. Next slide, please. So in our first cohort, we have rigorously selected 80 projects worldwide, and we've gone through many months of screening process. What we have seen is that you will find soon I'll talk about the lessons learned, but this is actually, it was taking a lot of our effort than what we thought initially would take, and we ended up selecting 3 projects in Western and Eastern Africa, or 4 projects. One is still doing the KYC, with 3 of them focused on conservation and restoration, and 1 on restoration only, with an average size of between 8,000 and 30,000 hectares. And in terms of tickets or follow-on investment needed, they are between 4 and 15 million each. So these aren't speculative opportunities. They've been through a very rigorous selection process, and they are really ready to launch now. We are going to publicly share which of these projects are part of the first cohort in the next weeks. Next slide, please. So running this selection process taught us 3 things. That structure is everything. A program is only as strong as its foundation. So we built operating manuals, formalized the roles, the timelines, and the templates that are required to create this process. And I was very happy to hear, Julia, you talk about Symbiosis Coalition having a similar view. I do think that not only do we need to incentivize peer-to-peer learning, but the more we can create formalized, structured learning pathways in terms of that project development pathline, the better we can catalyze this market. But we also need to integrate digital tools for the applications and data management, because without that solid infrastructure, it's not possible to scale. The second point is we have learned to bring in experts early and to keep them close. So the whole program was designed in a close collaboration with the blue carbon technical experts, with the financing experts, to shape what is possible, because really blue carbon is a cross-discipline field where nobody has the answers alone, but together we can make much better and faster decisions if we have access to that kind of expertise in-house and close to us. And the third point is that we learn by doing, and we have to adapt on the go. No 2 projects are the same. So as much as we want to standardize and create like very clear pathways, we also just need to be realistic that the path to investment readiness for each project will be different. And so even though we have cohort-based entries to the Blue Catalyst Fund, we develop tailored work plans with each project team to best address what is it that they need capacity building with, what is it exactly that they need funding for. And the last point is that we must adapt as we learn. When we actually saw that all the projects that we selected needed more time post-feasibility to reach investment than what we initially thought, we decided to extend the program support from 12 to 16 months. And this is in alignment with all the projects and all the technical service providers that we have in the program. Next slide, please. So what we have is the Blue Catalyst Fund is a $6 million fund in catalytic funding to build the infrastructures on which blue carbon project pipeline can be created at scale. We believe that this will allow us to catalyze 300 million follow-on investment by 2035. And if we are able to get this funding, we can deliver quite a lot for climate, nature, and communities. 50 million tons of CO2 avoided or removed across the project lifetimes, 180,000 hectares protected and restored, and $250 million benefits spread across local communities. In order to get there, what we need is philanthropies, family offices who are interested in getting into this blue carbon space to step up and help us close the fund. We're still looking for $3 million to close it. We have 3 million committed, so half the fund is already secured. From buyers like Symbiosis Coalition, we need the demand signals that blue carbon projects will be bankable. And we are in discussions with Julia and her team on how best to, leverage this offtake position that Symbiosis has for mangroves. But equally, we will still need financiers, whether that's banked or impact investors or family offices who are ready to provide the financing that these projects need for implementation. Because what the BCF is able to do is we provide the funding up to accreditation. We provide $500,000 in refundable grants to projects that they then need to repay us once we are able to successfully connect them to investors. But often, as you've seen, these projects will need 4 to 50 million follow-on investment to actually implement the project. And therefore, that kind of financing is still very important to be available. So the foundations are built, the projects are getting ready, and now we need to have all the partners to make this possible.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Diana. I think it's so exciting to see how to hear from Julia and Diana on these two ends of the project life cycle, the buyer voice, the demand, the organization to articulate what the buyers are looking for and then try and kind of create that pull. And then also the push that Diana is able to create through the infrastructure of the Blue Catalyst Fund. And really thinking, when I first started working in this space, one of the top kind of challenges that has been perpetual is the issue of pipeline and the issue of those early stage projects being able to move through feasibility and then to bankability. And Diana has been thinking so carefully about what is needed to really help projects move into bankability and defining that and then putting the pieces of the puzzle together in order to create a holistic solution. So I really think that this is incredibly innovative, and I'm excited about how the fund is designed around recoverable grants or refundable grants. So just love the bookend nature of those two, the push and the pull, and how they can work interchangeably with one another and really talk to one another to build pipeline. So with that, I want to close with a little bit of a big picture. I'm delighted to welcome Ignace Beguin. Ignace is the executive director of the Mangrove Breakthrough, and he will show us how everything you've heard today ladders up to a global vision for rewiring finance for mangroves. So thank you, Ignace, and over to you.
Thank you, Whitney. Hello, everyone. What a wonderful and stimulating conversation to address, issues related to an ecosystem which is not really easy to engage with, right? It's a complex ecosystem. They are muddy, they are wet, and it's full of mosquitoes. Um, and so for these stakeholders that you heard today on the call, they have been very much right explorers and pioneers in the space. But what struck me in the conversation today and with the work that we are doing with the Mangrove Breakthrough is that there is a much stronger level of maturity and sophistication of the ecosystem, which is now ready to absorb, new type of capital. And this is this journey that the Mangrove Breakthrough has been trying to stimulate and grow over the last few years. When we launched with the Global Mangrove Alliance, this global ambitious goal of restoring and protecting 15 million hectares of mangrove by 2030, we're setting a specific objective of capital mobilization, which is 4 billion. And we believe that when we will achieve these 2 hectare and financial goals by 2030, hopefully, the market, being governments, financial institutions, corporations, will have reach a scale of understanding and maturity in approaching investment into mangrove that will put the trajectory of this ecosystem into full scale of recovery and protection. But to achieve the goal of the 4 billion targets, there are different streams that we have identified, right? You can obviously, in the conversation today, look at the carbon sequestration potential of mangrove. You can also look at the dependencies and the opportunities for mangrove adjacent or mangrove dependent activities. And then there are more, new opportunities coming up, which like nature credits. But the carbon opportunity related to mangrove ecosystem has really matured over time. And for the Mangrove Breakthrough, it's very exciting to see more transactions and deals happening in the space. But we can see much more happening, and this is what the stakeholders and initiatives you heard today are, putting the foundational block together for. We've seen real progress over the last few years. We announced at COP30 that since 2020, there have been over 750 million mobilized for mangrove protection and restoration from different type of funding and sources, right? Of course, mainly philanthropic and public at this stage, but we are seeing a growing number of financial investments related to private stakeholders. And it's been very clear today that the architecture is coming together, right? We just discuss the point around policy, but from the policy side, first of all, there have been some real breakthrough in the system, where we've seen, for instance, 15 governments that are putting specific, measurable mangrove-related targets in their NDCs, announced during last year or at COP30. That's really sending a strong message to the market, right, around predictability for these countries like Indonesia or Brazil being really ready for investment and putting mangrove high on their agenda. The government of Brazil, for instance, in particular, have a particular dedicated presidential legislation around mangrove ecosystem restoration and protection, right? And that is a very important signal, I believe, for project developers and investors around the credibility of this market, right? We've seen a real maturity from the demand perspective. Obviously, all the work that ORRAA and its partners have done over the years from the investors, stakeholders, corporates with the work of the World Economic Forum that Emily mentioned. And the latest breakthrough in this breakthrough journey, right, is the major announcement from the Symbiosis Coalition that Julia is leading. It's really, for me, signaling that the market is ready now to look into mangrove, thanks to all the work that the partners have done over the years. And that will hopefully create the path toward more automation and replication of mangrove related deals, in particular in the carbon space, right? I do strongly believe that the signal that Symbiosis is sending is very strong and will inspire others to follow suit. So that's been from the policy investor, from the pipeline, architecture element. I think we are looking also into a very dynamic space. We've launched with our partner at the Global Mangrove Watch and Restore a global call for project to build up the mangrove-related pipeline, including carbon, but not only. And we've identified over 350 projects, with several asking for already equity, several asking for carbon that already have carbon revenue. They are ready soon to issue more carbon credits, right? So there is a thriving mangrove economy, mangrove market, still nascent, but that is growing. And this is where the work of Fair Carbon and the Catalyst Fund that Diana presented is really catalytic in as such, right? Because it will allow some of these projects to mature and reach an investability and bankability threshold that Symbiosis Coalition or partners from the World Economic Forum will be able to step in. So for me, the conversation today is very clear, right? The sector is reaching a level of maturity and sophistication never seen before. Stakeholders are ready to absorb capital. Policy and regulation are coming into place. And the last thing I will highlight is that we talk a lot about, markets and signals and pipeline, but ultimately the impact that this investment will make are of a very large scale for people, right? There are millions of people that depends directly or indirectly for their food security or water quality on mangrove. And so when you invest in mangrove for carbon, you also have major high impact on population over the world. So this is a journey that all of you, if you are not yet, should join. Very happy to engage and with the Mangrove Breakthrough, and you have many partners that are playing a specific role in achieving this collective ambition that we have set and that we are near to achieve with the work of all of you. Thanks for having me today, Whitney.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Ignace, for your leadership in helping bring everyone together under this shared vision for this shared global vision for mangroves, and also for reminding us of the impact that this work will have on the ground. Again, so that these are not one-off, engagements, but that really all of this work ladders up into a holistic vision and also true impact with communities adjacent and living with these ecosystems. So thank you for your leadership on that. I'm excited about the pipeline that the Mangrove Breakthrough has been putting together with Restore, as well as some of the other financial infrastructure pieces and the cooperation and collaboration with governments. So here we can, we're gonna wrap up the recording piece. We'll stop the recording and we're gonna move into a Q&A.